Welcome to For Good Measure, an interview series celebrating diverse composers and other creative artists. I'm Nanette McGuinness, Artistic Executive Director of Ensemble for these times. In this week's episode, we continue our Da Capo Conversations, a mini-series where we'll be giving familiar segments a topical twist. Today we revisit Dawn Norfleet's and Rajna Swaminathan's perspectives on growing up in a musical family. Here's what Dawn Norfleet had to say.
Well, I come from a musical family. My brother is a keyboardist. Right now he's playing with the Temptations and playing and singing. Not one of the dancers, but he's yeah, he sings background and he plays keyboards. My mother was a professional singer. She was a music education major at Texas Southern University, where she met my father, who was a professional musician, an entertainer. He played organ, played piano, and sang. So when they met in college, they were both music education majors, and they got married. And then they decided to go on the road as the Mel Dawn duo. So even though my mother's name is Joyce, Dawn was her stage name. And so she named me after her stage name.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. And so my mother, very practical minded. She left the touring world behind. They had a very interesting life in the 60s, touring, at the time, segregated clubs in the Midwest. It's a Black duo. So they were kind of, I guess, yeah. So anyway, yeah. They toured segregated clubs, playing light jazz and stuff like that, and then settled in LA. And my mother, like I said, practical minded. She left the touring life behind and began teaching music in LA, South LA. And so she actually produced an opera at a high school in Watts, California. And it was All in the Night Visitors by Giancarlo Menotti, right? And it was starring. It featured all faculty and students. So and she played piano, and there was one flutist. So together they did the whole. They were the accompaniment of the entire opera. And my brother, who was 9 at the time, played all. So I was 5, and I remember that. It was it just had a profound impact on me. I used to walk to the library and check out the album, right? And I played it to death, All in the Night Visitors. So that album has, just that recording, that opera just has a very fond place in my heart. Yeah. And when I was in grad school, imagine how I felt when Giancarlo Menotti was a guest, came to speak as a guest at my grad school. And so I was just like sitting there fanning out, and he was just so gracious. We have some photos of from that production where my brother is singing with one of the students who was one of the shepherds or something. And it turns out that the shepherd is now in a Temptations tribute band, and my brother is now playing with the Temptations. So it's kind of cool. But anyway, yeah, so my mother taught choir, and so I heard a lot of choir music, and I vocal music in general. She was a voice and piano major, I think. Well, focus, because her major was actually music education. So I heard a lot of vocal music, and I think that influenced me.
Here's what Rajna Swaminathan had to say.
So we both were brought up in the Carnatic scene. There's a Carnatic approach to the violin, and it's becoming absorbed into the sort of mainstay of how Carnatic music is performed. It's a different technique, sort of different tuning. So you sit down and you play it. And so they were, they're a little younger than me, but we were basically performing a lot together when we were younger, and obviously came from a musical family. A lot of both our parents and also extended family being musicians. I think it was overwhelming, just like how much music was centered. And yeah, I think perhaps we were clubbed together a lot, to the point where it's really over the last, I'd say, 10 years, we've tried to find our individual independent voices and paths and interests. But it's hard being clubbed together and be like, all right, well, you just have each other and you're going to perform together for the rest of your lives. And
Right.
it feels a bit like, okay, well,
Cloying.
who are we outside of this, like, obviously very productive siblinghood and very like inspiring siblinghood? Because I've been super deeply inspired by them and their approach to the violin as I was building Rajas. Their, the way that they approached the violin was so central to how I imagined that music was that, okay, we can have people who are trained in Indian music, but who have such an open approach to it, and also who are constantly absorbing other kinds of techniques. They would bring in like extended techniques on the violin that are never used in the Carnatic context, but that they sort of found through working with improvisers and even kind of thinking about classical techniques. And I'd say that, over the last 10 years, we've both been trying to find our independent paths more than anything else. I mean, it would be nice to come back together at some point. So I hope that happens. But for now, I think it's been just really nice to see how they're headed, because they have a different approach even to notation and everything. They're very they've done a lot of studying into how to notate ornaments that are very specific to Indian music, and find a way to articulate that through working with classical string players. So they've gone in that direction.
Interesting.
Really finding new notational languages. But they've also done, work involving graphic scores, and so in a lot of ways our work is parallel.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I have a lot of respect for them, and hugely inspiring person in my life. And yeah, so it's a overall, I should say, it's a positive thing to have someone like that to, despite the complications of family as are always there, but like, just having someone like that, knowing that you're not alone in the world, someone going through this, and yeah, having someone to just sort of be a mirror and reflection back, as you kind of find your own path with things. So
Yeah. Did they travel with you in December to Chennai?
sometimes, yeah, they were maybe less so involved with that, but um they did make quite a few visits themselves to perform. I think they knew early on that that wasn't the path they wanted to go down. And they're like a multifaceted artist, and studied theater in college, and they're really, then they do visual art, and so they're very sort of multifaceted in that way. So I think they knew. They were like, okay, that's not where I'm headed. I'm gonna do these other things, maybe earlier than I did. So but yeah, they did actually go into the sort of writing for Western classical musicians field before I did, and sort of helped me find my place there and
Yeah.
introduced me to Gabby. So that was really great.
That does sound great. I have one younger sister
Mhm.
who did theater. I was the music, she was the theater, and our paths diverged fairly greatly. And then I ended up doing opera, which was interesting. And she does fabulous work in law, which is where she ended up landing. But it's very interesting when you have a younger sister who's determined and kind of knows what they're up to, and even if they're not sure, having them right behind you is it's an interesting experience. And it's good to come together as you're older and kind of feel less competitive, I guess, and more embracing is what I found.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So it's been really nice as we come into this phase of our lives in our 30s.
Come into your own as adults.
Yeah, really. And we both ended up moving out to California around the same time. They live in Oakland, and so yeah, it's nice to have family on the West Coast now. And
Yeah, right. True.
We've been East Coasters our whole lives, so
So now you're both out here. That's cool.
now we're both out here. Now my dad is out here, so it's
oh wow,
whole family's out here now. So
the Western migration. Yeah, we've sort of done the same thing too. We were east and then south, and slowly in waves came out, and much of us are out here now. So thank you for listening to For Good Measures Da Capo Conversations, and a special thank you to our guests for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast by clicking on the subscribe button, and support us by sharing it with your friends, posting about it on social media, and leaving us a rating and a review. To learn more about E4TT, our concert season online and in the Bay Area, or to make a tax-deductible donation, please visit us at www.e4tt.org. This podcast is made possible by grants from the California Arts Council, the San Francisco Arts Commission, Grants for the Arts, and generous donors like you. For Good Measures produced by Nanette McGuinness and Ensemble for These Times, and designed by Brennan Stokes, with special thanks to co-producer and audio engineer Stephanie M. Neumann. Remember to keep supporting equity in the arts, and tune in next week for Good Measure.